jack up the flavor. Bring the flavor Canadians crave. To climb has some of the craziest lore I have ever encountered. It's a story of teamwork, betrayal,
Really
and
should have painted this before, but we're here now.
Hello Internet! Welcome to Game Theory, the show that is peak when it comes to theorizing. And speaking of peak, if you're like me, I'm sure your homepage and especially your shorts feed has been filled with these colourful characters climbing, falling, and just doing the craziest things. Sure, I'll try.
Oh, I need water. Hang on, I need water.
This, of course, is the latest multiplayer game to take the YouTube and streaming world by storm. It's actually taken over the internet so much, it spawned a new name for this genre of game, Friendsmop. Now, I'm not in love with that name, but I do immediately understand what it means when someone says it. Goofy multiplayer games with proximity chat that are perfect for streaming, and Peak is exactly that. You and your fellow scouts crash on a deserted island, and your only goal is to get to the peak to be rescued. It's simple, it's silly, and I've had such a blast playing it on GT Live and with my friends on my own personal streams, trying desperately not to die. You don't! No! Oh, my legs! And Dapper Mr. Tom Live on YouTube, by the way. But even when I'm just trying to have a laugh with my friends, the theory brain never fully turns off. And so, as I worked my way to the peak, I slowly began to notice small details that tell us that things might not be as simple as I was first led to believe. From small items we can find, to the different biomes, to a demonic scoutmaster that's trying to kill you, there is definitely lore here. We just need to make like a Boy Scout and work together to find it. So buckle those seatbelts, loyal theory scouts, because we are about to crash land on Lore Island and climb all the way to its missing peak. As a scout, our first task when we land in the middle of nowhere is, of course, figure out where the heck we are. That way we can truly assess the situation and understand what kind of lore we're up against. And the most obvious place to start is to look at the biomes we encounter throughout the game. Before the recent update, there were 4 main biomes: a shore, basically a beach, tropics, a jungle, alpines, a snowy mountain range, and the caldera/kiln, a volcano. That's quite a lot of things in what is only a 2,000-meter climb. And as we talked about in our Mario Kart video, that's too close for these things to realistically be together. But this wouldn't be a very fun episode if I said that, so instead, we're just gonna look for somewhere that is likely larger, but does have all of these biomes located in it to give us an idea of the location. Let's start with the volcanoes, as while there are a lot of them on this Earth, you can see on maps like this one that they tend to be grouped together in specific areas, like the west of the Americas, southern Europe, eastern Africa, East and South Asia, the Polynesian Islands, and Iceland. This is because volcanoes form along tectonic plate boundaries. When those tectonic plates either
Figuring out money as a young adult can be a lot. My parents helped me open my first bank account. It gave me independence and set me up early. That's why I love Scotiabank's new preferred package for students and youth. A no-fee checking account made to help students start strong.
I should have done this before I put all the extras on it. But whatever.
Defamation for death.
Slouchy. Extra high. Barrel. And vintage slam.
At these prices, have them all.
It's so amazing.
tectonic plates either move apart to leave a gap in the Earth's mantle, or move together to create high-pressure gases that burst through the Earth's crust. Bam! You've got yourself a volcano. The tectonic plate lines also tend to be along the coastline of most land masses, so if there's a volcano, most of the time there is a shore somewhat close by, which is another one of the biomes we need, but it doesn't help us narrow things down all that much. So, on to the next one, the tropics. Tropical rainforests tend to emerge around the equator. The higher temperatures and longer hours of hot sunlight cause warm, moist air to rise and create consistent high rainfall, which provides the ideal conditions for plants to grow rapidly, creating these towering rainforests. So, if these can only really exist across the equator, by overlaying the maps of the rainforests we know of and the volcano map from earlier, we immediately can knock out our crash site being anywhere in Northern America, Europe, and some parts of Africa and Asia. Okay, getting warmer. Well, actually, no, it's the exact opposite, because now we have to find find a place where the Alpines can also exist. Now, when you think of the Alpines, I'm sure the first place that comes to
Antarctica.
mind is the literal Alps that are in Europe. But as we've already shown, Europe doesn't have the climate for a tropical jungle, so it can't be there. There are also the Japanese Alps, but again, no tropical jungles. Does that mean we're out of options then? Not quite, because thankfully the word Alps is more than just a name for a few specific places. The word actually comes from the Latin word Alpes, which is likely an adjective of the word albus, meaning white, because the tops of the mountains are covered in white snow. That word was then taken to describe a type of biome like we're seeing called the alpine tundra, which is basically any set of mountains that have a high enough elevation and are therefore covered in snow. Mount Kilimanjaro is one such snowy mountaintop, and it's actually a dormant volcano, so we get to double up on our biomes there. Plus, it's located in Tanzania, which is in Eastern Africa, where you can find the East African montane forests, a group of smaller tropical forests that could work really nicely as our potential lost scout location. Another set of snowy mountains would be the Andes Mountains in South America. They're right next to the Amazon rainforest, and as we saw from our map earlier, there are no shortage of volcanoes around there. But this is where things initially seem to get a bit more complicated. See, the devs weren't happy just having a successful multiplayer game with 4 interesting biomes. They had to release updates for the game, including a 5th biome, the Mesa. Now, in the game, the Mesa actually replaces the Alpines on certain days. But fortunately, that doesn't actually change much for us, because while there are mesas across the world, there are still only 2 main locations where mesas exist alongside tropical rainforests and volcanoes: Eastern Africa and the west coast of South America. Well, kinda. You see, there are desert hills down near the Andes, but they're technically not mesas. They are what are known as plateaus. A plateau is an elevated area with a relatively flat top and cliffs on multiple sides, just not all sides. While a mesa is the same thing, just smaller, with cliffs on.
Fall is on sale at Michael's. Shop BOGOs on trending decor, lighting, floral, and more. Set your table with classic fall vibes
There we
and
go.
give your porch a cozy refresh for less. Shop in store
No,
and
no, I
online
should have painted
today.
that first.
It's not what you make, it's who you make it with. Make more reunions with banking packages that reward you every day.
With cliffs on every single side. So, if you squint, South America kinda has mesas, just really big ones. But I hear you guys, no, that's cheating. The answer must therefore be Africa, which actually has mesas. And I'd agree, if it weren't for one of the rare and very exciting discoveries you can find in Peak. When traversing either the Alpines or the Mesa, you have a chance to come across these adorable little guys. These are capybaras. It's a bit of an odd sight, as capybaras are actually more drawn to wetlands or dense forest areas, as opposed to the deserts and snowy mountains we find them in. But that aside, their appearance is the final piece to our puzzle, because capybaras are native to only one of our 2 options: South America. I guess that means there's always both the Alpines and the Mesa. It just depends where you land as to which one you end up traversing during the climb. And actually, South America as an answer makes a lot of sense when you remember that in real life there was a plane
my
that
second
crashed
guess.
into the Andes in 1972, right near a volcano. 45 passengers were on that plane, and the ones who survived the initial crash eventually had to resort to cannibalism to survive, which also matches another recent Peak update where they too allowed you to eat your fellow survivors. But that crash involved the Old Christians Club Rugby Union and their families. Our crashed plane only involved Boy Scouts, so it's not quite a one-to-one, which makes it trickier to use for our lore purposes. So what can we use to help us on that front? Maybe the outfits? You do get some pretty great outfits from these expeditions, and all you need is a badge to get them. In the real world, things aren't quite that simple. You need money to get an outfit this fly. Fortunately, that's where our sponsor Chime comes in. Honestly,
Right.
if I was stranded in the middle of nowhere, I'd know that as long as I have Chime and their brand new Chime card with me, I'd be totally fine. You see, Chime is changing how people feel about their money, constantly adding features and tools helping them to avoid the pitfalls of traditional financial institutions. For example, while it may just look like a normal credit card, the Chime card is anything but. You decide how much money goes into your Chime secured deposit account, which means you can only spend what you have, allowing you to build up credit without taking on debt. You can also turn on safer credit building, so your account is paid off automatically.
There we go. All right. Oh my
And there's
gosh.
no annual fees or interest, which is great if you're trying to save up for those flights for your next vacation. Just maybe don't take Bing Bong Airlines. And the savings don't stop there, because if you use the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen to sign up today and
Here we
set up
go.
a direct
Just need to wait for him to
deposit,
dry
5%
and put his gloss on.
1.5%
Second head is done.
categories like gas, groceries, and bills, and
What do you think?
fee-free
Think he
overdrafts
cute?
up to $200.
I don't know what I did
That's
with his
how
head.
I was able to save up to buy
No
flights
idea what
back
I
to
did
the
with his
UK to visit my family this year. My godbrother is getting married, and I didn't want to miss it, so all these little extra savings really came in handy.
Listen, paying $14.99 a month for a streaming app, and $9.99 a month for a music app, and $12.99 for a clip app, and more money for a bunch of other apps, that really adds up. So why not get YouTube Premium for just $12.99? It's like having all those and the entire world of YouTube uninterrupted. Your wallet will thank you, if wallets could talk. YouTube Premium. Try 1 month free of charge.
In handy. Literally, any way you slice it, Chime is helping make your money up to $350 on top of everything else we've talked about. Just think of all the supplies we could buy with that. Maybe we could buy something that will help us find the law. Maybe not. I guess we gotta keep exploring. So thanks again to Chime for sponsoring this video, but let's get on back to answering the question of where we can actually find the law in Peak. Well, the answer once again comes down to the brand new update. Not only did the devs add the Mesa biome, they also hid a special little secret inside of it. Within a rocky outcropping, you have a chance to find a hole. Inside that hole are treasures beyond your wildest dreams. Stop it. Once you head on down, you enter what is called the tomb. And after a bit of parkouring, you come face to face with an item known as the Ancient Idol. Now, given we're in South America, the idea that this kind of thing exists isn't all that surprising. The Inca Empire used to live across the Andes during the 15th century, and they used to build golden statues of their gods in order to worship them. To the Inca people, gold wasn't seen as a precious metal, it was a sacred substance that represented the sun's power. This tied in specifically to the god Inti, a young boy that was worshipped as the sun god. However, the ancient idol we find in Peak isn't really a boy. I mean, I guess you would call it that, but in actuality, the statue is of the in-universe character Bing Bong. Bing Bong, Bing Bong! No, not you. Go back to film theory. If you've never played Peak before, Bing Bong is the name of the mascot for Bing Bong Airlines. The airline that got you stuck on this island in the first place.
Let's see if you guys
on
work.
the plane, it's on the food, but most importantly, he takes the form of a plushie that is found on the plane after it crashes. Now, he's on the adventure with you, and players will do almost anything to keep him safe and bring him to the Peak with them.
We have to make sure Bing Bong gets here.
Everyone, Bing Bong is okay.
Chad tells him I can cook Bing Bong.
No!
Don't do it for me, do it for Bing Bong.
Bing Bong, we did it! So then, if he's just the airline's mascot, why on earth is there an ancient idol on him? Could this be an instance of a cargo cult? There have been examples of cargo cults all throughout the 20th century, but one of the most widely known is from the Melanesian islands during and after World War II. Japanese forces, as well as Allied forces, landed on these islands, bringing with them medicines, clothing, food, weapons, and technology that the indigenous people of these islands had never seen before. These things were so advanced compared to anything they were used to, and with some of this cargo being dropped from the literal heavens, these visitors...
Own a design studio. Get a really cool design contract. Realize you have to do a whole bunch of mathy business work before you can even start the not mathy design work. Use QuickBooks to see the big picture. Use QuickBooks to manage cash flow. Add some more cash to your flow. Let QuickBooks do more of this, so you can do more of the things you love. Intuit QuickBooks. Manage and grow your business all in one place.
humans, these visitors became like gods to them. However, eventually the war ended and those visitors went away, taking all of their supplies with them. The islanders were naturally confused as to why the airdrops weren't happening anymore, and the conclusion they landed on was because no one was running the airports that had been built by the visitors. So they started a cult that mimicked the behaviors and rituals they saw from these visitors, lighting up the runways with fire, waving signal cones, doing marching drills with wood carved to look like guns, all with the hopes of bringing back those they saw as gods and the gifts that came with them. In Peak, it is clear that we are not the first plane to have crashed on this island. During one of your climbs, there is a 95% chance that you will encounter a character known as the Looker. He is a fellow scout that crashed sometime on this island before you, and just spies on you from a distance. He's certainly creepy, but not as creepy as another stranded soul you can find, or more terrifyingly, can find you. At the start of your run, there is a guidebook on how to survive the game, written by Scoutmaster Myers. It's pretty straightforward stuff. How to climb, how to point, and of course, rule 0, don't abandon a friend in need. Makes sense as a guidebook that any scout would carry. But as you reach the campfires at the top of each biome, there's a chance that you find journal entries written by the give advice for survival, like which mushrooms will or won't poison you, how campfires work, and how you can bring your friends back to life. How wacky! But as you collect more of them, suddenly a darker truth begins to reveal itself. Did he crash here with his troop? But once they got to the Alpines, things started getting dicey. Bonus Rule 5 tells us about a moon-shaped fruit he comes across that puts him to sleep. And when he wakes up in Bonus Rule ? All his scouts have left him behind. Slowly, he begins to go mad. He starts and becomes an undead-looking monster. Now, if you abandon your friends for too long, he will hunt you down and kill you.
Rust on them, but
It's
you
actually
can't scrub off.
terrifying. But the point is that there have been a number of plane crashes
Can't
on this
wash
island
it in the
before
washing machine,
ours.
so
Probably all
you're just
connected
gonna have to get a
Bing Bong
bath, like
Airlines,
this.
given the amount of suitcases lying around
You go.
containing Bing Bong airline food. So it wouldn't be too outlandish to think that the indigenous people saw Bing Bong on the plane parts, on the food, and in plushie form, and thought this must be their god. His face is everywhere, and so they created an idol to worship it in the hopes that it would bless them with more supplies and visitors. Worked out. Except that would
Alright,
imply this
here we go.
idol is just that, an idol, a statue that doesn't have any kind of power. But that isn't the case. When you pick up this idol, it not only weighs a ton, but it grants you invincibility. You are now immune to all forms of damage.
Gotta be
which
careful
is
how I get into the
crazy
face.
powerful, but why does it give you that power?
I might question my life choices mid-plank, but never my deodorant. Secret.
With IXL, there's an endless number of skills that match exactly what my kids are working on in class right now. And with so many different kinds of questions. My kids never get bored. Yes! Yes! IXL helps my children learn at their own pace.
Doesn't
starting
need to
with
come
easier
off, so.
questions and slowly moving to
I
harder
wonder if I
ones
can
when they're
just-
ready. With
there's a
IXL,
scene.
my children never feel stuck or frustrated. And if they miss a question, it's
I
not
don't care about your kids.
You that power if it's just a random cargo cult statue, unless it's not just a statue. See, the Incans believed that their idols were way more than just golden carvings of their gods. They were a physical manifestation that embodied that god's power and presence. It was essentially an extension of that god. So, if the idol is giving off special power, that is reflective of the powers of the god the idol is designed to look like. Meaning that Bing Bong is actually a god.
I do have Jesus, and Jesus believes in your climbing ability.
And people say FNAF's the only franchise we give the crazy theory treatment. But listen, some kind of divine entity would explain all the weird goings on around this place, like the scout statues that bring you back to life, supernatural items that defy the laws of physics, why the Scoutmaster didn't just die on the mountain, but became an undead monster that can literally survive anything, including lava. That's not something a starving human can do. It all points to the supernatural, and with the only godlike statue being of Bing Bong, as well as the fact that during the early days of Peak's release, a number of streamers found that Bing Bong could talk.
Hello, I'm Bing Bong. I'm here.
Ow.
Of course. Yours to talk.
It makes the most sense for that divine entity to be Bing Bing Bong. He was talking to us through the plushie. The only thing this doesn't really explain is why would Bing Bong use his powers to curse the Scoutmaster when he was the victim? He was abandoned by his troop. Well, maybe. The answer lies not in Bing Bong himself, but in the main imagery that we see repeated across this island. The scouts themselves. The statues are scouts, the tombs have scouts on the walls, and every single crash we've learnt about or survivor we've seen has been involved in the scouts. Clearly, the scouts are important to this mystery. So I decided to pull out my old scout handbook to refresh myself on their practices. And what stood out to me were the foundational principles the scouts were built upon. The Scouts' Oath. It goes like this. On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country, and to obey the Scout law, to help other people at all times, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight. Now,
mentally awake and morally straight?
It literally matches what we have to do when we land on this island. We have to work together to help each other. We have to remain physically strong in order to climb. We need to not eat things that make us fall asleep, and we need to not betray each other. If you do all those things, you're almost guaranteed to get to the peak. Break any and you will surely fail. Our plane crashed to teach us these principles so that by the end, we would be better scouts. And Scoutmaster Myers, he failed this task. He fell asleep on the job, which is not very mentally awake, and he hadn't trained his scouts well enough, leading them to break their own oaths and not help him. He failed, and so they failed, leading to the god of this world, Bing Bong, to curse him and forcing him to punish those who also failed to keep their oaths. This mountain we climb isn't a random trail. It's a pilgrimage, a journey that leads you to personal transformation, much like the Inca trail in the Andes used by the Inca people all those years ago. Bing Bong is drawing scouts from across the world to this island, crashing the planes that his face is on, and continuing the cycle of scouts' growth and maturity that he has been teaching people for centuries.
Like, canonically, Bing Bong is Jesus now.
But hey, that's just a theory. A game theory! Thanks for watching.
World premiere on Game Theory.
The legend of the Deltarune is a lie.
Just because we're not living doesn't mean we don't enjoy a good living room.
And Michael's Halloween decor really knocks him undead.
Anyone with brains knows that.
Brains. Her laugh is infectious. So is her bite.
It's not what you make. It's who you make it with.
It sings.
More reunions.
I cut up its forehead to get its eyeballs out, so now I gotta put its forehead back, so give me a second.
Wait, they are going to fine me $250,000. Excuse me, what?
Yeah, the everyone is stealing from Profit saga just got even crazier. Hello, Internet. Welcome to Style Theory, the show that's ready to pop on these big bad brands. And yes, if my voice sounds weird, it's because I'm sick, but not too sick to talk about this sick situation. Once again, someone is trying to take advantage of a small independent brand known as Pawa. This is the athleisure brand that you have likely seen come across your Instagram or TikTok feeds at some point. And it's owned by friend of the channel and soon-to-be two-time Creators in Fashion runway participant, Cassie Ho, aka La Galates. But despite that, we do try to remain very unbiased on this channel whenever we cover a topic. However, since this is the third time that we are covering this copyright saga, I do feel like I just have to kind of come out and say this. This girl cannot catch a break. First, she had the design of her patented pirouette skirt stolen by Shein not once, but twice. Then, most recently, she learned that a company called Gotex has been selling another suspiciously similar skirt at multiple brick-and-mortar stores.
One where I found out that Nordstrom Rack was selling a straight-up dupe of my patented pirouette skirt, also being sold at TJ Maxx, Marshalls, and some store called Deals.
I think it's actually pronounced Bell. You know what? Not the point here. That's legal stuff. By the end of our last episode, Cassie had extended all in writer saying, hey, just stop selling the dupe, sell my product instead, and we can just let bygones be bygones. To which Nordstrom totally said yes. Everyone made a bunch of money. It was happily ever after. Just kidding. By Taylor Swift. Yeah, instead of meeting in the middle, she's basically been going through a legal pinball pinball machine, bouncing back and forth and back and forth and back and forth between all involved parties. And when she did get a response, it was pretty much the worst response.
This NDA says that I'm not allowed to talk about this story, and that if I do post, that they are going to fine me $250,000.
I have to admit, that was a plot twist I did not expect. Now, there's a lot more to the story, and it's all putting Cassie, her company, and her brand in a very complicated spot. Gotex is basically trying to pull an Ursula and get Cassie to sign away her voice. But should she? I mean, is Gotex even legally able to do this? And is there anything that Cassie can do to end this once and for all? Or is she doomed to drown in red tape forever? Let's break this whole thing down and find out if maybe, just maybe, there is actually a light at the end of this copyright tunnel. The first thing that we need to do is figure out how we went from $0 to $250,000 in the first place. Before posting her first video and a series of Instagram stories discussing the situation, Cassie has been pretty radio silent on the whole thing, despite all the tags and questions from fans who were finding these pirouette squirt in stores.
You guys also showed me receipts of that exact Gotex dupe.
During that time, she and her company were working to find a resolution that wouldn't end up in a huge lawsuit. But instead, she says she ended up just being bounced around for months.
And essentially, it's been a game of hot potato where I'm the potato being tossed around from lawyer to lawyer. Lawyer, corporation to corporation, between the retailer, the vendor, and the manufacturer.
And with no power to make them give her the time of day, Cassie turned to the one place where she held all the power: social media.
Did you really think that by threatening to sue me that you'd actually shut me up?
No, I can't speak for them, but I can hazard a guess that, yeah, they did. And it worked. After months and months of nothing, Cassie finally got a response from Gotex's lawyers. And you are not ready to hear this. No, really, take a breath with me. Okay, let's go.
Want to hear what the Gotex lawyer actually wrote me instead of apologizing for infringing my patent? Since Gotex did not design, manufacture, or sell any of the products that are alleged to infringe the patent.
Pause. As we discussed in our last episode, these dupes were being sold under the Gotex brand on the websites of these stores. And when there were photos of these dupes found in stores, they had the Gotex tags on them.
It literally says, products offered by Gotex are one-of-a-kind creations.
The lawyers were the hang tag.
Now here's the thing.
Should I go with purple? Because I got the purple eyes on him.
Like, hey, my guy. Despite
Hi, sorry I didn't see you. I don't tend to notice the chat too often. I'm sorry.
Infringe on your patent. We good, bro? We
Don't be
would be
bloody.
having a completely different conversation right now. Gotex has every right to try and claim that. Try being the key word. They would
Wonder if
still
I have
likely
another
have
one.
to prove at some point that it didn't violate Cassie's patent.
Don't have
To be
little
like,
ones.
that problem.
These size is good, but I don't have any more. At least not the color I need.
It really makes it hard. What was I saying? See, running this whole situation to just get done to Gotex to finally put the drama to bed. With the help of her lawyers, of course, because you should always use a lawyer. Because you think that you are going to go into some big giant corporation, but if you do, use a lawyer. Anyway, I know a settlement agreement can sound pretty serious and scary, but from a legal perspective, it's pretty normal. Not a big deal. This is basically the legal equivalent of Cassie going, hey bestie, I don't want to go through this whole big legal drama, so just stop selling the score, give me a fair royalty, and we'll just be done with this. Okay? To which Gotex said, of course, bestie, I got you.
right?
Wrong. Hey Siri, play Denial is a River by Doechii.
Yeah? No, they didn't do that. In fact, they did the opposite of that and did something that no one really could have expected to happen.
They didn't accept, reject, or even counter Cassie's settlement. Instead, they sent over a non-disclosure agreement, or NDA, that Cassie must sign before they'll even continue the conversation.
Listen, NDAs are pretty common in any place where a lot of sensitive information is going to be exchanged. I've signed plenty of NDAs in my day, and it's not really a huge deal. However, this NDA is not that. It isn't trying to keep everyone locked in. It's trying to keep Cassie and her voice locked down.
According to Cassie's video, this document states that should she sign, Cassie cannot talk publicly about any of these negotiations. And if she does, she will be fined $250,000.
Yes, $250,000 just for talking about the situation. Needless to say, Cassie didn't sign, and for good reason.
In this scenario, Gotex is requiring Cassie to sign this NDA in order for the negotiations to continue, or start for that matter. Up until the posting of her first video response, Gotex hasn't exactly appeared willing to talk by Cassie's account. So who's to say that should Cassie sign this NDA in good faith, that doing so will open this previously closed door, that Gotex won't just turn around and continue to deny that they are at fault.
Again, in this fictitious scenario, Cassie would have signed away her one way of fighting back against these big corporations, her voice. She would be well and truly Ursula. Say it with me, friends. Do not make the same mistakes as the Little Mermaid.
And if anything has been true during this whole Poplex copyright saga, whether it was with Shein, Nordstrom, or Gotex, Cassie's voice is her biggest weapon.
And Gotex is making a big claim against anything and everything Cassie has used her voice to say. They are claiming defamation. Dun dun dun.
You see, that little letter that Gotex sent included a very
interesting request.
We request that your client remove all defamatory remarks that she has published.
But that's not all. According to the screenshots of the letter from Cassie's video, they also requested that Cassie refrain from encouraging others to defame Gotex. This is likely due to the large backlash from Cassie's fans, both towards Gotex and the stores carrying their skirts. And they capped this all off by saying, while Gotex has so far resisted exercising its legal rights in this matter, that patience does not extend forever. Now, legally, all I can say about that is, ooh.
Hey, Pine Sol, check this out.
Oh, wow. You're an all-in-one cleaner like me now. Do you also smell amazing?
Ugh, there are no Pine Sol. Hey, shake to my nozzle, pal.
The only one you need.
Well, that is, patience aside, what we actually need to pay attention to from this letter are these two little words, defame and defamatory.
Defamation is when someone says or transmits, like, posting online, a statement about someone else that is, one, false, and two, hurts that person's reputation.
But is that actually what Cassie's doing with her videos and her posts? Let's look a little closer.
Generally, the courts in the U.S. look for 4 criteria to determine if defamation has actually taken place. 1, you have to say or post the alleged defamatory remarks to some sort of third party.
Which, yes, Cassie's Instagram with over 3.2 million followers would count as.
The second is whether what was said is actually damaging to someone's reputation or causes them sort of harm.
Which, considering how Gotex has had to shut off comments on its Instagram and how Nordstrom has been flooded with tons of angry messages, could be argued here.
And even if that wasn't the case, most states argue that if you accuse someone of a crime or corrupt act, like say stealing or infringing on a patent, it pretty much checks the cause harm box automatically.
Things are not looking so great for Cassie. She is currently 0 for 2 on all accounts, which means it all comes down to our final 2 points. And And this is where it starts to get a little complicated. In order to prove defamation, Gotex would also have to show that Cassie's statements were really false, and that she either knew they were false or was negligent in determining if they were false. Most of the time when you state your opinion, whether it's good or bad, you are not committing defamation, even if that opinion is based on something false. But when you start to say things that are false, that appear or claim to be fact, that is when you start to get into some legal trouble.
Legally speaking, there is a big difference between saying, I think Gotex is infringing on my patent, and saying Gotex is infringing on my patent.
But that's only if the statement is false. If it was found that Gotex did infringe on Cassie's patent, then there would be no case for defamation.
Listen, you can go damage someone's reputation as much as you want, as long as the things that you're saying are actual facts.
Only problem is that you and I can't actually determine if Gotex really stole from Cassie's design, despite how obvious the answer might seem based on the photos. The only one who can legally decide that is the courts. Which brings me to the final point I want to talk about today. What happens now? As of the time that
Your
I'm
horns are
recording this
drying.
episode, which is
So you can
August
sit to the
29th,
side for now.
2025, this is where we stand. Cassie asked for a settlement, Gotex sent the NDA, and Cassie
These aren't
said
strong
in
enough.
no uncertain terms,
Let me tell you one thing. The more you tell me to
Those are
shut
done, those are done.
up, the louder I'm going to yell. So, no, I'm never going to sign your stupid NDA. You're never going to silence me, and you can't buy me for any amount of money.
to be honest, there are so many different ways that this situation could go. One party could kneel to the other, they could sit in a stalemate for literal years, or they could go into business together and everyone could live happily ever after. Highly unlikely, but hey, it could happen. Yet, despite all of those possibilities, there does seem to be just one most likely outcome. And this is where I want to remind you that despite knowing all the words to Legally Blonde the movie and the musical by heart, I am not actually a lawyer. This is not actually legal advice. Okay. At this moment, Cassie is in a stalemate with Gotex. If she signs the NDA, she loses her biggest way to fight back and move the needle on this whole situation. Remember, she went through months of no solid responses until she posted her video. And Gotex has no incentive to accept Cassie's settlement. This, at least from this non-lawyer's point of view, leaves Cassie with only one real option. Sue Gotex. Let me be crystal clear about this. A lawsuit is the last thing anyone in this situation should actually want to happen. It comes with huge risks, both professionally and personally. If Cassie won, it's unlikely that the money she'd get from Gotex would cover her legal fees. And if she lost, not only would Cassie end up paying damages to Gotex, but it would open up her business to more and more copyright infringement with no way of fighting back. Because in the end, that is what all of this comes down to. How infringing is the infringement? Cassie has fought back against dozens of dupes, and those are only the ones that we know of. And she did it all with the power of her patent. If she went to court and lost this case to Gotex, the truth is that suddenly that patent becomes nothing more than a fancy piece of paper against all the other would-be dupes out there, past, present, and future. But trying to avoid it is what landed us here. Remember when I said that despite all the possibilities, there really only seemed like one plausible option? Well, in all likelihood, a court is probably never going to rule on whether or not Gotex actually infringed on Pawflex's design. Why? Around 98% of all civil cases in the US end in a settlement long before they ever go to trial. More often than the two sides find a way to work out some sort of agreement to end the lawsuit before it goes to the hands of a judge or jury. Which is what makes this situation so infuriating. Because, according to Cassie, she offered Gotex a settlement agreement, which is the exact same place that we would be if they had gone through with the lawsuit and gone through the courts in the first place. So, the question is, how do you break a stalemate that seems unbreakable? Well, Cassie should do what she has been doing, which is stay patient and let her voice, the voice of her fans and followers and fellow creators, fan the fire under Gotex's pot. Cassie never signs, and let's be real, she's pretty much said she never will. The only way that Gotex comes out of this situation with any sort of good reputation is to come to the table and make a deal. Hey Siri, play Good Luck Babe by Chapel Roan. But hey, that's just a theory. A style theory. Keep looking sharp. Up next on Style Theory. Companies are ready to steal your face to sell their products, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. Or is there?
I don't know. I think Sheen is currently using Luigi Mangione's face to sell shirts and stuff, and hey, if it works. It's a good selling feature. What's up, Discord? I think that'd be fun.
K-pop Demon Hunters is everywhere, and it has everything you could ever want. Fire music, amazing characters, and looks fit for your napalm era. However, did you know that those bits are actually filled with some insane parts? Hello, Internet. Welcome to Style Theory, the show that's ready to show you how it's done. I'm sorry, I've been listening to that non-stop. Like the rest of the internet, my entire personality for the last month has been consumed by K-pop Demon Hunters. And I mean consumed. My Spotify, my feed, even all of my group chats are all focused on this movie.
Also, can someone tell me why everything on the internet, and I mean like every quiz, horoscope, everything, keeps telling me that I'm mystery? I am not mystery.
And while I could spend hours, and I do mean hours,
I suppose it doesn't work. Gotta get new scissors already. Ooh, that sounds like fun! Exclamation mark.
talking to you about the significance of Rumi's specific patterns or the hidden meanings behind each song. Soda pop. Wait, are they talking about? Instead, I want to talk about something that I've been trying to cover on this channel since the literal beginning, and that is K-pop fashion. I'm so excited because not only is this movie a mastery.
Ow, fucking whore, Pastor cocksucking mother. Ow! You have to bite me like that.
You see Huntrix, the Saja boys, and just about everyone else wearing it.
I'm fine.
Is bursting at the seams with so many deep cuts honoring not just the history of K-pop, but Korean fashion as well. And since I can't really
It's a little low, but that's okay.
I'll rely on sharing Easter eggs to help heal the Hanmoon. From Rumi to Jinu, OGs to the potential sequels, we are going to uncover the fashion mystery. I said I am not mystery. Okay, relax. Just sit back, grab some ramyun, and get ready to learn everything you need to know about the style of K-pop Demon Hunters.
And I gently shove it down his ripped off throat. There's the glue. Chunky bear.
Demon Hunters. The movie centers around by the Honda, which is this kind of sheet music-looking blanket that covers the world and protects it from demons. Their goal is to turn it golden. You know, like the #1 song on Spotify above actual IRL K-pop groups. I mean, yeah, they really are going up, 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 up. Am I okay? They're going up, up, up. Up, up, up. What is happening?
Does this look familiar? Well, you need Gamer Subs. Gamer Subs GG energy drinks have vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and no sugar.
To get the energy that you need to marathon watch something like, say, Style Theory, and get a sweet, sweet discount, go to gamersubs.gg/StyleQueen and use code StyleQueen to save 10% on your GamerSubs order today. But more than being idols with just their music, their fashion is also doing the work, both by inspiring a whole generation of cosplayers to go out and make these outfits, but also by bringing K-pop fashion to the masses. Also, I'm going to be doing my best with these pronunciations as someone who is not Korean and is very American. So please be kind and know that I am looking up pronunciation guides and doing my best. We really respect other cultures here. Let's take a look at Rumi, our main diva of the movie. Her character design is all about statements meant to draw the eye. From her yellow crop jacket that gives off a military-inspired silhouette thanks to its exaggerated shoulders and the inclusion of the asymmetrical spiked shoulder armor, all the way to her now iconic purple dragon tail braid. Everything about her style exudes power and confidence, which actually functions as a great counterpoint to her emotional journey throughout the movie. Also, can I just ask, like, her hair is insanely long. How is her neck okay? Like, my hair is very long. And after I take a shower, it's just like, I step out of the shower with the wet hair and my neck just goes... Anyway, back to the video. The movie's director, Maggie Kang, who also created the original idea for the film, has said in multiple interviews that her inspiration for Hunter's design came from K-pop icons like ITZY, Blackpink, and Twice, and that inspiration is the most obvious with Rumi. Rumi also shares a lot of similarities with Blackpink's Jennie, specifically from one of my favorite eras, Feel This Love. Hit you with that do-do-do-do-do. Jennie not only rocked a very similar looking braid, but her arguably most iconic look of the era hit all the same elements as Rumi's. From the tactical inspired accessories that feel very Lara Croft and that look like they would fit right into Rumi's closet. I mean, high neck sleeveless crop tops paired with high waisted shorts are worn by Rumi multiple times throughout the movie. And you know that the mugs are mugging, baby. And like Jennie in that era, most of these looks are paired with some type of combat boot. Listen, we all know I love a boot moment, and yes, this is only part of my boot collection. However, the addition of combat boots really gives Rumi a very modern aura. You see, in the early 2000s, popular groups like Girl' Generation typically wore high heels. Very, very high heels. Respect. It was a time of hyper-femininity, both in K-pop and pop music as a whole. But as time went on and fashion evolved, so did popular footwear. This meant a rise in boots and sneakers as streetwear moved from niche into mainstream. Rumi also seems to take some inspiration from Alexa's villain look. I mean, the white outfit, the purple hair. Are we seeing the vision here? Then we have Zoe, the writer, the rapper, the living embodiment of me when these scripts are not coming together. I might as well just tear these off. While it's clear that Zoe does take some inspiration from Lisa of Blackpink. Wow, this is like the third episode in a row that we're talking about Lisa? What an icon. The majority of her look appears to be inspired by Cho Young from Twice. From both of them being writers to the blunt bangs, the buns, and the overall, well, essence of the character, the inspiration is clear. I mean, just look at this comparison made by a Threads user. It's undeniable. They share a feminine yet edgy style that balances cute detailing mixed with more masculine streetwear. However, if you zoom in and take a closer look at Zoe's outfit from how it's done, you may notice one other Easter egg. The suspenders. This is very likely a nod to Kara, another girl group that premiered in 2007. Specifically, it's a reference to their Mr. era. In the music video, as well as a number of performances and promotions for the albums that featured it, the group wore crop tops paired with cargo pants, sneakers, and yes, suspenders. I mean, check, 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 and check. And then we have Mira. Which, let me just say right now, okay? If I am anyone in this movie, I am Mira. Or like, maybe
may be Sussy the Bird, but I am not mystery. Okay, you hear me, horoscope accounts on the internet? I am not mystery.
Mira is the wild child of the group, with a style to match, though matching her style inspiration was a little more tricky.
Listen, a lot of K-pop idols have sported similar outfits and hairstyles over the years. You have Rosie and Jisoo from Blackpink, Giselle from aespa, and even Yeji and Yuna from ITZY. They've all had their Mira moment.
However, we were just looking in the wrong place.
One of the first instances we see of Mira in the movie is on the Met Gala red carpet in that unforgettable sleeping bag ensemble, which we do later see the Saja boys recreate.
Instead of the stage, we need to turn our attention to the runway.
Unlike her group mates, Mira is modeled after a, well, model. Model An So-yeon,
who director Maggie King has admitted to being a huge fan of,
is known for her experimental style and more laid-back day-to-day aesthetic.
The resemblance? Uncanny. The vibes? Immaculate. And as a group, their looks pay homage to all of the idols that paved the way.
Their looks from the final song, What It Sounds Like, look to be a combination of two groups. First are the Twice outfits from the field. These include a similar mix of white and gold, a use of belts, and of course, boots. The other seems to be ITZY's outfits from Mafia in the Morning. Again, it's very monochromatic white and very military-inspired silhouettes. Check the chains as well as the jackets with very similar shoulder embellishments.
And then you have what I consider to be their best looks of the movie, the ones from Golden.
Once again, we see that military, almost marching band inspired silhouette. And it actually seems to call back to one of the greats, 2NE1, circa their Crush era.
Ugh, we stand.
Though Huntrix's looks were almost very different. Rather than taking inspiration from K-pop, early concept art shows that they were almost inspired by Korean history. These looks are a modern spin on the traditional hanbok, which consists of a coat and top paired with either a skirt or trousers. White hanbok, similar to what we see in parts of the concept art, were once considered to symbolize purity, light, and the sun, which does play into a lot of the themes of the movie.
But even though they changed their...
Hey, Pine Sol, check this out.
Oh, wow. You're an all-in-one cleaner like me now. Do you also smell amazing?
Ugh, there are no Pine Sol. Hey, shake to my nozzle, pal.
The only one you need.
Even though they changed their looks, they didn't lose all that history. Their current designs still have plenty of subtle nods to traditional Korean iconography.
For example, the little prints you see on their outfits, especially on Rumi's jacket, are directly inspired by Daejeon, which is a colorful art style found on many ancient Korean temples. And those little charms that are hanging off the girl's belt, those are known as norige, decorative knotted pendants that historically were customized to match their owner's unique style, which these certainly do.
We see something similar again in the bracelet that Rumi gives to Jinu, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Before we can talk about the boys, we need to pay our respects to the OGs. Nowadays, when we talk about K-pop music, we tend to think of the modern K-pop group. However, the K-pop music that we know today is actually pretty recent in the grand scheme of things.
It first started getting mainstream popular in the 1990s with groups like Sayo Taiji and Boys and SES. This new wave of music blended Korean culture with American pop and hip-hop.
And it changed music forever. For the better. I mean, I don't want to live in the timeline where K-pop didn't happen. That would actually be the worst timeline. Imagine all of this going on without K-pop. Evie, can you imagine? Can you imagine? No, it would be a horrible timeline. But before K-pop was K-pop, Korea still had iconic music. And we get to see a speedrun of it in the movie.
While the scene is almost a blink and you'll miss it moment, as we learn about the Hanmoon, we see flashbacks to all the girl groups that came before Huntrix.
And their amazing looks inspired by their specific decades. So let's take a journey through time, starting with the most recent.
The Sunlight Sisters
Pardon me?
to be from the 1990s, as evidenced by the fact that they draw major inspiration from OG K-pop groups like Baby Fox and SES. Note the similar bright pastel color schemes, and of course, the hair accessories.
Also, those white pants? So 90s.
Rewind to our next two groups. The first is dressed in a very mod style. This includes that bright color blocking paired with accessories like white gloves, thick belts, and of course, headbands to go with those beehive and bob hairstyles. And then our next group is clearly inspired by the 40s and early 50s with their victory rolls and their fitted dresses that include details like sharp shoulders, button closures, and belts used with to give a nod to the Kim sisters, who were pretty much the exact of their time period. No, really. Not only were the Kim sisters in Korea, they were able to cross over to America, which, let me tell you, was extremely hard to do. They even appeared on the Ed Sullivan Show over 20 times, which is the equivalent of like Blackpink being on Hot Ones right now. But back to our timeline. Our next group is from the 1920s. It's always the easiest decade to clock. The drop waist, the hairstyles, the headwear, they're all key components of the Jazz Age. And last but not least, we have the first hunters, whose attire looks like they come straight out of the history books. In an interview with Screen Rant, Maggie Kang said that she wanted to seamlessly blend this very high-concept K-pop story with traditional Korean culture.
Oh, why don't we play that off of the kind of shaman women from Korean culture?
Shamans, also known as Mu or Mudang,
yes, like the hippo, but also no, not like the hippo,
would dress in
Oh yeah, how's Mudang doing?
like we see in the
I haven't seen that happy hippo in a while.
communities through song and dance. As Maggie Kang put it,
And there are these amazing women who like kind of threw the first concerts.
that's just like so badass.
it also matches what we see in the movie. When we put the first hunters side by side with this photo of Mudang Osubak, you can see a number of similarities, especially the hat.
Oh, and speaking of hats, move aside, BTS, because there's a new boy band that's ready to steal our hearts and our souls.
While Huntrix can't be taken down, the Saja boys are ready to give them a run for their money. And I don't just mean the Idol Awards. Their style is also off the charts.
And packed with more cultural references than a soda pop has bubbles.
In their human forms, the Saja boys are what K-pop fans refer to as flower boys.
Because they're as pretty as a flower. What this actually means is that they're
Where's the other one?
clean cut. It has soft, delicate features, they're very stylish, and overall they appear very innocent. Even when you can't see their faces. Okay, seriously, do I like this guy? I don't get it.
Where is the...
Herself says she was heavily inspired by anti-K-pop groups like Seotaji and Boys and
Just because I said you couldn't have it.
OGs don't have all the flair that really makes the Saja boys
Fine.
The multicolored hair, the nail polish, and the jewelry definitely steer more towards the modern era of K-pop boy band.
The soda pop outfits alone have huge callbacks to BTS. I'm talking Boy With Love, DNA, and yes, even Big Festa Energy. However, just like Huntrix, each of the Saja boys individually pull from different sources of inspiration for their specific looks.
Romance's design is based on Youngjun from Text. Not only do they share a very specific hairstyle, one that does give the illusion of a heart shape that's made with Romance, but Romance's yellow top from the soda pop performance also calls back to this fan favorite look. And in his demon form, well, game, set, match. Baby Saja, you know, the one that looks 12 but has the deepest voice, he's what K-pop fans refer to as the Magne, or youngest member. Magne, like Baby and Zoe, are often the rappers of the group. According to the film's character designer, Baby is directly inspired by BTS's Jimin.
Which, yeah, okay, I see it. I really, really, really see it. No notes, let's move on to Abby. Named, of course, for, well, if you don't know, then clearly you haven't been on the internet long enough, and I can't be the one to introduce you to that side of the internet.
Abby typically wears a Hawaiian shirt throughout the movie, which, as it turns out, has a long history in K-pop fashion, and are seen frequently on performers like BTS.
Brad and Chad and Doug, the grizzled hitchhiker from the gas station. Him being the best scary hitchhiker ever.
If you're trying to lower our guards, it's working.
M&M's, it's more fun together.
Kind of like him up a little bit.
The ultimate collab now in your Happy Meal.
Performers like BTS, G-Dragon, and EXO. And while Abby does previously takes some inspiration from many ab-forward K-pop stars, the one that stands out to me as the most likely one-to-one inspiration is Wonho, formerly of Monsta X. I mean, if not by his actual style, Abby was definitely inspired by some of Wonho's poses, among other things.
And it doesn't hurt that he clearly knows what's up. Yeah, moving on. The next up is... mystery. My rival, the bane of my existence, the one that everyone on the internet seems to think is just so me.
King said in her Forbes interview that Mystery didn't have a one-to-one inspiration. Instead, he was meant to be your general mystery anime boy archetype. Okay,
Yeah, it's more fluff in that head. Damn
do
it.
have more in common than I thought. I am totally the mysterious anime boy type. What? I am?
However, just because the director herself can't pinpoint one specific inspiration doesn't mean that subconsciously there wasn't one. Case in point, Junji of Only One Of.
Not only has Junji rocked a similar hair color to Mystery before, but he is also infamous for one other thing, his vision blocking bangs.
I call that mystery solved.
Which leaves us with the leading man himself, Jinu. While clearly main character coded and drawing inspiration from a number of leading vocalists across K-pop, he takes the most inspiration from Astro's Cha Young-woo. They both lean towards simple silhouettes featuring button-downs, collared shirts, and casual hoodies.
It's a classic leading man look
Isn't this exciting?
with a modern twist. Approachable, charming, unthreatening. You know, everything a demon should be when trying to defeat their enemy.
But since Jinu was meant to have a classic Korean look, he, unlike all the other Saja boys, kept the natural dark hair. Kang also cites actor Nam Joo-hook as part of building out Jinu's
A little
overall
bit more.
appearance, who just so happens to be known for playing leads in romance K-dramas.
Let's see. Inspired by romantic leads, classic looks, great singing voice, Jinu seems to check all the boxes for a perfect love interest, while being a huge dork. What? I call it like I see it. Jinu has huge tuxedo mask energy. There, I said it. We all know it. Of course, that's just their human looks. Your idols have a dark side, and their demon looks contain even more hidden meanings and ties to Korean culture.
Looking closely, the Saja Boys' demon wardrobe appears heavily inspired by the Joseon dynasty, which spanned from 1392 to 1910. This was a key moment of Korean history, as it helped set the foundation not just for the modern Korean language, but for much of its current culture.
Which makes sense considering the architecture and clothes that we saw in Jinu's flashbacks. I mean, he's supposed to be, what, 400 years old? That would put him smack dab in the Joseon time period.
Those now iconic tall, flat-brimmed black hats that we see on both the boys and the bird are known as a gat. Gats were traditionally worn by Korean noblemen and were usually made of bamboo, though they could also be made of reeds, arrowroot, or horsehair depending on the exact time period. And the beaded strings that we see the Saja boys wear under their gats are known as the gat strap and were typically made of either ivory or agate.
Basically, if you were wearing one of these, you were a big deal. Like, deal with the demon, big deal, apparently.
The rest of their outfits look to be the traditional Korean hanbok, which we talked about earlier. While this would typically be paired with a low-cut shoe known as a lee or a head, the Saja boys ditched tradition to go for a more modern boot, just like we saw on Huntress.
I'm not judging. I'm just saying that the influencers were influencing.
The whole look, from the tip of the hat to the toe, is giving Jiao Sing Saja, or as we say in English, Grim Reaper.
Which, of course, is what really gave the Saja boys their name.
In Korea, the embodiment of death isn't a skeleton dressed in a hooded black cloak, but a man dressed in a hanbok and black gat.
Or maybe as your favorite K-pop group.
But that is only the tip of the K-pop fashion iceberg. This art form has been around for decades, and given the success of K-pop Demon Hunters, I wouldn't be surprised if we got a sequel, prequel, or even a TV series spin-off.
If we do, you know it's going to be filled with even more history, lore, and of course, epic fashion moments inspired by the idols we love.
But hey, that's just a theory. A style theory. Keep singing, Soda Pop. Next time on Style Theory.
What the heck is a labubu? And should you even care?
I fucking hate Labubus. I hate trendy shit. Not intentionally. Like, I would like to like Laboos, and maybe I'll like them in a couple of years, but right now I just can't stand them. I didn't like Beanie Babies when they came out. I like My Little Ponies, though. Dinosaurs. It probably isn't going to be what I want it to look like, but we'll try it, I guess. Instead of a bow, put a ruffle. Why not have enough of this?
Try new Pringles Mingles.
Pringles
Figuring out money as a young
Mingles?
adult could be a lot. My parents helped me open my first bank account. It gave me independence and set me up early. That's why I love Scotiabank's new preferred package for students and youth. A no-fee checking account made to help students start strong and live fully. Say yes to their richest years.
For this video, I'm working with a charity who are dedicated to finding out if MatPat ever responded to the Hello Neighbor Twitter account. For just £3,000 per month, you can help support the Patention Foundation to give Hello Neighbor and every other indie game Twitter account the resources that they need to help get the attention of MatPat. The begging has to stop.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm finally ready. I'll analyze Hello Neighbor frame by frame.
Yeah, this isn't going to be enough to do around the neck. I think so. It'll go around, it just won't look as full as it should.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Game Theory, the show that's always late to the meme. And no, you didn't read that title wrong, my friends. Today's the day that I finally answered the developer's call. Today, I'm putting one of the most iconic MatPat memes to bed.
Oh, I kind of like that, though.
The test pilot for the Hello Neighbor TV show, frame by frame. Now,
I kind of like that.
Literally no idea what I'm talking about here. Let me just bring you up to speed. Hello, Neighbor.
Alright, I guess I'm going with that.
No
I don't have any more of
was
this.
an indie horror game that blew up a couple years ago, all about a kid trying to break into their neighbor's house to discover the secrets that are hidden inside his basement.
Well, I tried to dye it purple, but
really hyped up
ended up going blue.
Get to know your routes through his house,
Because I
getting
used the wrong
smarter as
dye.
you played. It was an idea everyone got really excited about. The story they were teasing was also really cool.
I mean, it doesn't have to go all the way to the end. Because, I mean, that's the back, so.
An alpha, and another alpha, and another, and then there were like 3 or 4 separate betas, and each time the game was just vastly different and significantly worse.
So, it's mine, I'll do what I want.
The ball is stuck.
It's stuck. Why does our copy of the game literally not do anything that it should be doing?
Until the full game finally released, and it just wasn't.
Old Navy, the Defamation presents.
Slouchy.
Fuck! I'm okay. Fuck it, I'm gonna glue this on. I'll stab myself if I keep this up.
The story was incoherent. It was this really big letdown for me for a game that honestly I thought had a lot of promise. Now, I'd done a handful of theories on those alpha builds, and those really helped the game blow up in its early days. But after being so disappointed over and over again with the various releases, just kind of stopped covering the whole thing. Fast forward 2 years, and suddenly there's a new TV pilot for an animated show based on the series, and I'm getting tagged by the Hello Neighbor staff to not just watch the thing, but to analyze it frame by frame. And normally that sort of thing be fine, no big deal. I get asked all the time on Twitter to analyze things. But what made this one different is that they did it over and over and over again. Not just once or twice, but 3 times, back to back to back, basically saying the same thing over and over again. They were practically begging me to do a theory on this
I kind of like that. Oh yes, I like that. It's cute. Do I have buttons? Pom-poms? Do I have any of the blue? I only got the little blue ones. These little tiny things. Don't really work. It's a little bit bigger. See, I want something like this size.
But the real question that I want to answer today is whether or not I enjoyed it. Was time to go right? What I actually enjoyed analyzing it frame by frame. In total, there are 8,748
I'll go with the
frames in
medium
this
ones.
game, so we better get to cracking.
Okay.
To get into this tutorial with the pilot, I first gotta tell you about this tutorial. Some of you have already been putting things together over on Twitter, but now I can confirm as part of my
Let me
retirement
get the
from hosting
fangs
the
off for
channel, I
this one.
finally have my very own U2's figure. That's right, my friend. I'm finally immortalized amongst the pantheon of YouTuber collectible figures. Look, Ma, I made it. I worked together with the U2's team to really personalize every element of this figure. The iconic red jacket, the hair swoosh, my favorite pair of shoes, even the smile that I put on when I'm dying inside trying to solve the FNAF timeline. But you're not just getting me, my friends, with this U2's. You're
What do you think of that
also
one?
my
I
very
think that
own
one came out
conspiracy
super
board.
cute.
This thing is chock full of little
We can leave the
Easter
fangs
eggs
on
and
because
stuff.
that'll
Plus,
get
I had to be joined
hot.
by
So
my boy, the absolutely iconic psycho friend Fredbear. He's here, he's there, he's everywhere. Who you gonna call? Psychic friend Fredbear. That's not all. For all you pin collectors out there, there's also these incredible spinning pins. Now you can have me shouting lore to Music Man anytime and anywhere you go. My personal favorite though has got to be this one of me becoming a meat pretzel inside of Glamrock Freddy's stomach hatch. Look, it even opens and closes. Must be like some sort of robot kid. Now, if you don't know how U2's works, these are all limited edition items. In other words, once they're sold out, they're never coming back. There's a countdown clock and everything, which is why it felt fitting for them to be one of my final merch items. Feels poetic in a way. So grab yourself a little piece of history before they and I are gone forever. They're all available right now at YouTube.
there we go. All right.
Right down in the description and click the link to get your little map pat while you can. Now then, I'm gonna take my seat
Yeah.
right here.
Oh, I like him. I really like how he got him up. He's cute. I like him.
About the scariest thing of all, stacking boxes.
It's the ultimate box stacking. You gotta stack the
Right.
boxes.
I haven't even finished gluing the horns on yet. I got so excited with the frills.
The pilot's only 5 minutes long, but it gives us a pretty solid foundation of what the plot of this show would be. It follows a group of kids who are all suspicious of the neighbor, so they decide to investigate his home to see what they can find. Of course, it doesn't quite go according to plan. The neighbor tries to catch him, but using his own house against him, they're able to escape. The kids watch as he puts a body into his trunk and drives off. Curious, the kids follow him and discover that it wasn't a body after all, but rather a doll that he then promptly buries. The neighbor yells at the sky for a bit, realizes that the kids are watching him, and then chases them away. They once again escape, racing home before the neighbor does. They watch from the window until, of course, the neighbor turns and stares back. Cut to black.
I really do love helping people. I get to do it every day here. Meet Greg and Kate. They had a TFSA set up for a trip to Florida, but Teo wants to go to the Louvre.
There we go.
Neil and Adam, they bought an RV and then hit the road as digital nomads. Good thing we can still chat on video calls. Just so happy for them. I'm happy for everyone that reaches their unique goals. We'll help you too. Let's connect and get started.
You want the green horn,
Find
so
out
where's the other
why.
one?
Nothing moves you like stuff.
Come here, you.
Cut to black. Short, it's sweet, it captures a lot of the feeling of the original game. It's got secret passages, a mysterious but angry neighbor, and of course, a mystery of how what the heck is going on with this guy. So if we want to figure that out, we gotta do what the meme suggests, go through it frame by frame. Here we go. Okay, so right here at the start, frame 5. I'm telling you, we're doing this. It's gonna be a long video. Here we see the return of Hello Neighbor's favorite creature, the crow. I never really spoke about crows in my initial theories, but they are everywhere in this franchise. From the concept art to pretty much every installment of the game, and now they're here too. Usually these guys are just set dressing, but I would suspect that the connection here is actually deeper than that. Edgar Allan Poe famously used a raven in his poem, The Raven, to be a stand-in for bad omens, a reminder of all the bad things that happened in the main character's life. In this case, the death of Lenore, a stand-in for Poe's dead wife, Virginia. And all of this is very fitting when you consider that Mr. Peterson also loses his wife in a car accident during the events of Hello Neighbor Hide and Seek, which takes place before Act 1 of the first game. Also, I know ravens and crows are technically different, but in a lot of old mythology where these sorts of ideas originate, the two were often used interchangeably. Greek myth, for example, claims that it's crows that are bad omens, giving the god Apollo bad news. While in Norse and Celtic mythology, it's a raven that's
There it is.
So,
Got it.
starting off the opening shot with crows and ominous dark clouds, not the best sign for whatever's gonna happen. And if the crows weren't enough, the lightning that strikes the banner at frame 39 is just icing on the cake. Very spooky.
My name is Nicky Roth. My neighbor, Mr. Peterson, is acting very suspicious after his children, Aaron and Maya, have gone missing.
Alright, there's lots to unpack with this one. First, the neighbor has a name? I've been referring to him as the neighbor for all these years, but apparently he's had a name the entire time. According to the Hello Neighbor books, his full name is Theodore Masters Peterson. And you heard me right, the books. Like every other indie franchise these days, Hello Neighbor broke off into its own series of not just one, not just two, 11 books. Fortunately for me, your new Game Theory host Tom was insane enough to go and read the entire book series himself. Thanks for saving me on that one there, Tom.
If you think I'm insane, just wait till you hear what's in these books. But it is pretty weird that such an important piece of information like your main character's name just isn't in the games.
Agreed. Okay, now
It's scarier if it's just the neighbor, because then he can be your neighbor.
Timeline that takes place. You might not recognize him, but this guy here, Nicky Roth, he's our protagonist from the first game. He's missing the baseball cap and the large jaw, but he still does have that iconic chin swirl. In Act 1 of Hello Neighbor, Nicky's kidnapped and locked in the basement, only escaping years later and not returning to town until he's an adult. If he's out here spying on Mr. Peterson as a kid, that means that this show has to happen.
In the 60s, the Canada Pension Plan was created to establish a modest, guaranteed benefit for all working Canadians, and to help keep seniors out of poverty. By the 90s, the number of retirees was going up faster than Canadians working, and someone realized we're going to need more than just contributions to keep the CPP fund going. And so was born CPP Investments. Since then, they've helped grow the fund to over $700 million, turning the CPP fund into one of the best performing pension funds in the world. Just one more reason we can all be proud to be Canadian.
Has to happen before the events of Act 1 in the first game, which, you know, is great, because again, outside of the books, we get very little information about this part of the game, or really any part of the game for that matter. So who knows, maybe this will be able to answer some of our burning questions about this franchise. One last thing, by the way, less of a lore thing and more just because I'm analyzing this frame by frame and reacting to it the way that I normally would. I gotta point out that my script here is really not happy with the grammar of that opening line.
My neighbor, Mr. Peterson, is acting very suspicious after his children, Aaron and Maya, gone missing.
It should be went missing, not gone missing. Feels like maybe the opening was originally longer and then they had to cut it down, which led to weird grammar and hacky sentences. Anyway, it's a minor thing.
Fucking whore. Fine.
Just an opening line for this franchise, but hey, let's get back
Here's a game for you. Every time I swear, take a shot. See if you're dead by the end of it.
Seems to not take place in the same world as the games. The original alphas of Hello Neighbor used Russian for any text assets, and later releases used a made-up language that jumbled up and swapped around letters, but this, it's just in English. That or they just changed their minds. The books are designed to be direct tie-ins to the games, and they do take place in Missouri, with all images inside the books using regular English for all the signs and newspapers. But then Hello Neighbor 2 came out after the books, and yet uses the same mixed-up language as before. Anyway, it is very inconsistent how they use text in this franchise, so just make up your mind, guys. This is why we can't have nice things.
3:47 a.m. Soldering in basement.
Frame 890. This one stood out to me as odd. For the first time, we can actually see into the basement without going inside. The basement in both the games and the books are specifically called out as having no windows. Quote from the book Bad Blood. The basement is pretty dreary, windowless, with nothing more than a
Still
hanging
too tall.
there. And in the games, we literally see fake windows with
Yeah,
drawings
you're
of the
too tall.
outside
Alright, but you're all set to
stone.
go.
Something that the books tell us were made by Mr. Peterson's son, Aaron. We can see the hanging light bulb that was mentioned, but the fact that Mickey can see inside the basement does ruin a lot of the mystique that both the games and books tried to build up about this mysterious room of the house. However, while it's certainly weird for the story, it does help us theorists because it's full of interesting details, namely that it's full of amusement park attractions. You've got a bumper car, a carousel horse, a ticket booth, and a bunch of schematics on the wall for things like a Ferris wheel. This ties in with what we saw during this game, where we see Mr. Peterson wearing a clown outfit. Back in the day when I was actively covering the series, I was always confused about that detail because it didn't tie into anything else that we were being shown, other than maybe a possible connection to Pennywise, the evil clown from It. But now it starts to make sense when you look behind him and see that on a mannequin is a red nose and red wig, the outfit for a clown. He is actually a part of this circus-themed amusement park. My gut would be the Golden Apple amusement park that we saw just a few frames earlier, and lo and behold, my gut was right, because the books tell us exactly this. Tom, take it away.
So yeah, Mr. Peterson is the head engineer in charge of designing all the rides for the park. This scene with the carousel, ticket booth, and Ferris wheel does actually happen in the books, but it's during a class trip to the old Apple factory where they're being shown all the designs of plans for the park. That might not seem like an important distinction to make, but what it shows me is that this series has had things different.
Doesn't really matter.
Books are designed to be a direct link to the
I should have cut it first.
This
Dumbass.
isn't a direct continuation or standard retelling. Instead, it seems to be a reimagining, taking inspiration from the books and combining certain elements of clearer storytelling, but altering it just enough that we get new lore. Wow.
Shake and win millions of prizes with the AliExpress $1 challenge. Get unreal deals for just $1. Win $10,000 in flight credits and a $3,000 AliExpress shopping spree. Download, shake, win.
Poor bastard. I just ask.
We've skipped ahead a bit. This is where things get really interesting. As you can see, across the room we see the phrase cursed written all over the walls. Cursed, along with the word omen, are regularly seen throughout the books, graffitied over both the Golden Apple amusement park ride before it opens and on the Petersons' house years later. Typically, these phrases are written by a group called the Forest.
Well, thank you guys for the thumbs up before you head out. Always appreciate it.
Costumes and perform rituals to bring themselves good luck and the rest of the town bad luck. Yes, this is an established part of the lore, and I'm shocked that you wouldn't have figured that out by playing the games. Anyway, during the events of both Grave Mistakes and Puzzle Master, Mr. Peterson's son Aaron and his daughter Maya start to investigate the Forest Protectors. So the Forest Protectors begin to sabotage Mr. Peterson's amusement park rides, graffitiing them with these words to try and warn him to stay away. Of course, they don't listen, which leads to one of Mr. Peterson's rides malfunctioning, killing a young girl. This would seem to imply that the Forest Protectors are at play here, but not so sure. Remember, this series seems to be paralleling the books, but it's not one for one.
Okay, that didn't work. It's planned.
The small baseball cap over on the side. So it feels very strange for the Forest Protectors to be inside of the Peterson household, especially given how protective we know the neighbor is.
Heaven? Have we reached heaven?
Nirvana! Oh, wait. So what then is this all about? Well, I think all this wall art is down to the neighbor himself. A couple shots later, we see Maritza backing up
Drive faster.
dozens of newspaper
God, I'm
clippings
impatient.
and characters circled in red.
I'd rather touch hot glue to cool it down faster than just let it sit.
Mr. Peterson is looking back
There we go.
everything that went wrong with the part and noticing Aaron at every turn, writing the word omen next to it. In his paranoia, he believes Aaron is the bad omen. Aaron was around the ride that failed. Mr. Peterson's past rides at other parks malfunctioned, killing even more people. Surprise, surprise, Aaron was there too. But the final nail in the coffin here, Aaron was also the one who pushed Mr. Peterson's daughter Maya off the roof, leading to her death. I suspect that is why he wrote all over Aaron's walls, as a reminder of why he was locking Aaron in the basement, meaning Aaron is likely still in the basement of this story as well. But speaking of that conspiracy board, while I said it's lifted straight from the first book, there are noticeable differences. Some of them are small, like the calendars lining up with March of 1993 and September of 1994, which is 18 months apart. That right there is the same amount of time Mr. Peterson was given to complete his park attractions in the books. But there are other details here that have themselves a much deeper meaning. We see articles about crows, the university president committing tax fraud, and a celebrity called Casey Clark who fell from grace. I looked into that character specifically, but she isn't anywhere else in this franchise at all. No books, no games, not even in the animated series, at least from what I could tell, which means that it's not the character that's important, but rather what they did. This board isn't just noting down a bunch of paranoid ramblings of Mr. Peterson like we see in the first book. Instead, it seems to be more in line with his investigations during the second
Time is it?
trilogy, which, confusingly enough,
10:30,
takes place
okay.
before the first book trilogy. It's kind of like Star Wars if it didn't have cool laser swords and magical powers, and instead had a lot of bear traps and boxes. Just so many damn cardboard boxes. It seems to me that Mr. Peterson is trying to uncover the mystery surrounding the Forest Protectors, and how they create bad luck for the town while keeping all the good luck for themselves. He's looking into the bad luck that follows people in the town, like the celebrity and the university president, as well as researching into crows, which we've established are a symbol of bad luck, which makes Mr. Peterson a lot less evil and a lot more like a misunderstood, sympathetic villain.
Figuring out money as a young adult can be a lot. My parents helped me open my first bank account. It gave me independence and set me up early. That's why I love Scotiabank's new preferred package for students and youth. A no-fee checking account made to help students start strong and live fully. Say yes to their richest years.
Old Navy, the destination for
The richest years. Being at home and not having any bills. The richest years. Before they actually try to live.
And vintage slim.
Is that right? Yeah, I should have did this before adding up
literally tells the kids
ones.
later in the pilot,
You have no idea what you've done.
this must be what he's referring to. They're messing with his investigation. I suspect that Mr. Peterson feels like he's been cursed by these Forest Protectors, and he's trying to expose them. But he's worried that all these detective kids getting in his way, they're gonna not only ruin his life, but also ruin the town as a result. Frame 4703. That walking animation is really something. His body's always turned to the left and we can't see his legs. Makes it look like they've used a forward walking animation but just keyframed it sideways. And that's weird because they've shown front-facing versions of it before. So it's not like a Sonic the Hedgehog or Mickey Mouse situation where they always have to face one side or the other because of that iconic shape. Hopefully they were able to iron that out in the full series. Other than that, yeah, nothing really to add. It just made me laugh. These are the little details that you notice when you're asked to do things frame by frame.
No, not this time. Not this time. You're not gonna do this to me again. Not again.
And just like that, we're into our final scene. I gotta to say, the neighbor is far less scary as soon as you make him speak. Part of what was terrifying about him in the games, and even in the first trilogy of books for that matter, is that he almost never speaks. In the second and third book especially, he just towers over Nikki without saying a word, just staring. That makes him creepy and mysterious. But as soon as he starts talking in full sentences like this, kind of ruins the mystique, makes him a lot less threatening. I get that he's human, and they're trying to make him more sympathetic, but I don't know, it just kind of takes the wind out of the sails there. Anyway, we're back at the Golden Apple amusement park, which really is the linchpin of the series. So much happens here in the book series, and we're clearly seeing some of that take place here. The crows begin to circle. And in the second trilogy of books, crows only begin to circle during storms. Now, the crows themselves aren't strictly involved in anything nefarious. In the books, and in reality, birds actually use the Earth's natural magnetic field to help navigate their way, namely during seasonal migrations. Messing with that field, though, can
I had
cause
hummingbirds at my window this morning. They were quite upset that the hummingbird feeder had gone empty.
really big storms
They leave about this time of year, so I didn't want to fill it up, but I kind of felt like I had to, so they could get that last little sip before they head out. Because I don't think those hummingbirds were my hummingbirds. I don't know, they didn't act like my hummingbirds. They were more, I don't know, different.
Protectors have begun their ritual to curse the town and thereby bring themselves good luck. That's why we see Mr. Peterson here yelling at the sky, "You're not gonna do this to me again!" It's not the crows that he's speaking to, but rather the forest protectors who are bringing a curse upon him and the rest of the townspeople, which he blames for the death of his wife, his daughter Maya, and the failure of his ride designs. Later in the scene, we see him reveal an object with a gemstone in the middle, which is another direct reference to the forest protectors and their ritual. It does look slightly different in the books, but clearly it's meant to be the same thing. Quote, "It's not quite round, but not a cube either. It has lots of sides, each one catching the early dawn light creeping past the clouds. From here it looks to be about the size of my palm, a tarnished brassy thing." And just look at the pictures. Clearly there are some obvious comparisons.
Oh, yellow. Oh, wait. Oh, bow. I can put that bow back on. Oh, that works. That works lovely. I do not have patience or time.
There are some obvious comparisons here. Now, this device in the book is super important because it's part weather detector. This allows the forest protectors to know when a storm's coming so they can perform their good luck ritual. But it also seems to be the thing that actually brings good luck to anyone who's holding it. I wonder if that's maybe why it changed its shape. There are these real-world gemstones called star sapphires. They look like normal sapphires, but with a star-shaped pattern in the middle. Back in the day, they were thought to ward off witchcraft, hexes, and curses. Now, in the book, Mr. Peterson managed to make one of these, and suddenly the investigation into his past ride malfunctions and all the deaths that they caused, they all get dropped in an instant. So again, this seems to be what he's referring to here when he talks about the forest protectors not doing this to me again, because he now has the device that'll be able to change his fate. But one thing you'll notice throughout my analysis here is the repeated phrase in the books. All of this stuff is explained in the books. So I just wanted to see if there was anything I could take away from this scene that didn't rely on book knowledge. And the thing that stood out to me was the burying of the doll in the middle of the amusement park. This doll was Maya's doll that we are carrying around in the game Hide and Seek, which came out in 2018. Now, this doll has shown up in later games of the franchise, like in an underground shrine during the VR game Search and Rescue, but Mr. Peterson's never buried this doll specifically in any of the other games or stories as far as I can tell. So why change that? Well, I would imagine that they're expanding on the crow lore, which kind of sounds like a joke, but I'm being completely serious here. I mentioned
I'm getting sloppy.
how crows were a sign of bad luck and death.
There we go.
The reason for this was because crows
Alright, he's done. What do you think?
looking to feast upon the dead that lay across the land. However, there is another potential meaning if you see crows circling, a more spiritual meaning. One interpretation of crows circling like we see is that there's a spiritual transition between our world and the spirit world taking place. This can be as simple as someone communicating from beyond the grave, but it can also be a symbol of rebirth. And you see, this is where the doll comes into play. Dolls have a spiritual element to them, and we see that in real world.
I got all the big stuff. I've got all the tiny stuff. Now I need the medium stuff.
Allowing the user to remove the
And I still have 2 full days.
Bad luck. And hey,
So I
look
think
at
I'm
that. There's that whole luck
gonna
thing
be
again.
close,
The
but I
VR game
think it's
Search and
gonna
Rescue
make it.
actually uses dolls in a similar way. In the final level of the game, Aaron is able
But
to
I'm
use a
done
doll
for the
with
night,
another character
so
to
I
switch
got
between
a
his
little
own
bit
body
done.
and theirs. The dolls
Probably
have a
won't
spiritual
stream
connection
tomorrow
to
night
them.
because
Combine that with the crow circling,
12-hour shifts do kind of take it out of me. Shut up, I don't care.
Ritual of his own.
Alright, well thank you guys for stopping by, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. Wanna go? I'll show you what I made before we head out. Okay. This clown demon stash jar, he's done. Jackalope's done. That one's done. That one's done. Those two are done. This guy.
Oh, baby, Peekaboo is the most fun with you.
Oh, sorry. There we go.
Where did you go?
He's not quite working properly. I got this guy done today. Winnie the Pooh is finally dry. This one's also done.
Once upon a time, there were 4 little rabbits. Flopsy, Mop.
That's nice. And I got Minnie Mouse. All I just gotta do is the rest of this stuff now. No pressure, no worries. We'll get there. I still need to fix Horsey. Alright, well, thanks for stopping by, and you guys have a good night.